Welcome to our Detroit News High School Football Preview. I'm Rod Beard, and I'm joined by Tom Markowski. And Tom, we're at the regional round now, and now we're really starting to get to some good games as we get down toward the final, just a couple more weeks before we get there.
Some definitely heavyweights in this round.
Certainly. Just want to look back one quick game last week. What's the one game that surprised you last week?
Well, we talked about it a little bit last week. I think the score, more than the victor, so to speak, was the Grosse Ile scoring 70 points and giving up 51. And they scored 42 in the second half. Robershot had 37. That's almost 80 points in the second half. They only played 24 minutes. It's amazing they can score that many points. But, you know, Grosse Ile's been scoring a lot of points all year. We'll see this week. They got a tough game.
Well, you got to feel for Robershot, too. I bet if you look at any score around the state, 51 gets you a win just about anywhere else except for that one game.
Yeah, they just didn't play enough defense, obviously. And, you know, they just gave up too many big plays.
Yeah, and that's what happens, and that's how we're getting to this point. 5 games for you. Start out in Division I, Rockford at Clarkston. This is one of those heavyweight games that's worthy of a state championship, but we're getting it in a regional.
You know, Clarkston has never been to a state final. This is a big hurdle for them. These teams have never played one another, which is somewhat strange. But I like Clarkston. They love the power of the ball. They're playing at home. They have everything going for them. And Rockford's good this year. I'm just not sure they're good enough to beat Clarkston.
Yeah, this isn't one of those classic Rockford teams that kind of mashes you with the run and then has that stout defense the same sort of way. And the funny thing about this is that we said that Lake Orion lost this game to Clarkston. Lake Orion got shipped out and played kind of a MAC regional kind of schedule, and now Clarkston's moving over, and they're going playing teams from the West already this early. Usually you wouldn't see this until the semifinal round.
Well, it all had to do with the Division I teams, not enough of them on the west side making it. So they had to ship somebody from the east side to the west side, you know, to go with the Grand Ledges from mid-Michigan. So, and Clarkston was the team, and I kind of like it. You know, you split up Lake Orion and Clarkston that normally meet in the district round. Now they won't meet if they both win all the way until the state final.
Well, let's stay there and look at Lake Orion. They're going to host Macomb, Dakota, which won the MAC Red, and this is another game that could be worthy of a state final. Certainly two teams that have made it to that state championship round, but again, they're going to meet each other in the regionals.
Yeah, and Lake Orion playing at home, their defense has been outstanding. I talked with a number of coaches that played against them. They're really fast on defense. They get to the ball in a hurry. I think Dakota's going to have their hands full with this one. And I checked on the MAC. The MAC's a little down this year. They're 5-14 in the state playoffs. I don't see Dakota getting past this round. I think Lake Orion gets to the second round and likely meets Cass Tech.
Yeah, I think we're maybe on a path to see Lake Orion and Clarkston if some chips fall a certain way. I like Lake Orion in this game as well as Clarkston in the previous game. Another team we've been following, Oak Park at Wyandotte, and I made the mistake. I called out Southfield last week and said that they get that win over Oak Park. Took overtime, but Oak Park was able to prevail, but now they got to travel to Wyandotte for a game this week.
Well, we were discussing a little bit off mic here that the Downriver League, since it was formed, has not defeated a team from outside the Downriver in the state playoffs. I think this is their best chance. Wyandotte's defense has been outstanding the first 2 rounds, taking care of Woodhaven and Truman, giving up only 14 points in those 2 games. They're going to have their hands full with Oak Park and their speed, though. And we were talking about John Kelly and just how explosive he can be for Oak Park. Kick returns, interceptions, just, you know, explosive coming out of the backfield. I don't know if Wyandotte has enough speed to keep up with John Kelly and company, so I'm going with Oak Park.
Well, I'm going to pick Oak Park the same way, but for a different reason. It's because now I'm convinced that Greg Carter has finally made an imprint on this team, and if they can win those first couple of games in the playoffs, I think this will be another game. And on the road, again, we talked about their schedule in the regular season in the OAA White and playing those tough games just about every week.
Sure.
I think this is going to be another one of those games where they reap the benefits of having played that tough schedule. I like Oak Park.
In some ways, and this is not to diss Wyandotte, this is probably an easier game, if I can use that term, because last week's game against Southfield, they already played. They went to overtime the first time, went to overtime the second time. I mean, that just has to be a battle for that team to get through a team that you had to go overtime twice to beat. And I think it's somewhat of a relief to play somebody from a different region, and it's that newness that will
and a change of pace. That
right.
might be what they need.
So I like Oak Park in that game.
Another game that we've seen these heavyweights before. We get it to the state finals. Detroit Catholic Central at Plymouth. Plymouth on a roll now. They've really gotten a couple of good wins and got some momentum going. CC's probably going to be one of the toughest teams they faced in this year's run in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, Plymouth only really played one poor game throughout the season. That was Week 9 against Grand Blanc. The game they lost previously was to Livonia Churchill by 4. They got revenge with Churchill last week. I saw CC for the first time last week. I didn't know what to expect. I knew they were going to be a tough team. They're a very confident team. That team is on a roll. They're to use a phrase, they're on a mission. They knew they got a break getting in the playoffs at 5-4, and they're going to use that. Their offense looked awfully good, and I know Wall Lake Northern didn't stack up physically to Catholic Central. I think Plymouth.
Few do.
I think Plymouth has a better line as far as strength, and they will match up better with Catholic Central. That being said, I still like CC in this game.
And given all of these games, I'm going to say the game that I would most want to see, and maybe the game that you want to most see, is East English Village, formerly Detroit Crockett, playing at Orchard Lake St. Mary's. And I'll go on record as saying it. If this would be the most impressive win in East English Village's or Crockett's school history if they're able to go onto the red field and beat St. Mary's on Saturday at 1.
I think you're right. They've been to the semifinals before talking about Crockett, but St. Mary's would be the big hurdle in their program's history, if you will. You know, Rod Oden's been coach there for 8-9 years, and he's always pointed to the state playoffs. Always give him credit for that. A lot of coaches in the Detroit area would often say, we want to win the city, then whatever comes after that comes after that.
Yeah.
That's not the way Rod Oden thinks. He thinks about the state playoffs and how far they can get. You know, I really like that philosophy. But the thing is, St. Mary's is the hunted. They're the defending state champ. No matter who plays them, that's going to be the biggest game on their schedule. So it's not a big deal for them to play somebody like in East English. It is a big deal for East English to play St. Mary's. They've been pointing to them. That being said, I got to go with St. Mary's. They've been there before. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be some of the blowouts that St. Mary's have had so far in the playoffs.
Well, for 2 reasons. One, I got to catch you in the picks. And for the other, PSL pride, I'm going to pick East English Village with the upset of the week to get this game.
It can happen. I like East English offensive line. They got a good ground attack, and if they can maintain control of it, keep the ball out of St. Mary's hands, who knows?
Well, there you go. That's just 5 games and a myriad of great games. So get out on Friday and Saturday, see a couple of good high school football games. And again, check in with us on DebtNews.com throughout the weekend to see Tom's game story and the rest of our reports on our website. For Tom Markowski, I'm Rod Beard. We'll see you next week.